just like, oh, okay, I'll try to ignore it. I have a really good friend, Dania, who probably knows like everything about my Tourette syndrome when it comes to all my friends, because I've known her. She actually knew me while I was going through my rough time with the diagnosis and everything. So, she's been there when I was getting all that taken care of. And so the way she reacts to it, she'll stay over my house or I'll go over her house. And when I tick, she doesn't, pretend she doesn't see it. She does. I can tell that she shows concern, but she's not like, all in my face. Oh my gosh, was that a tick? Can you show me how to do it? So she is understanding of it. It's just really good when you have good friends like that are understanding, yet they show concern at the same time. Each case is different. Some people are going to need a little bit more affection toward their ticks and stuff like that. But me, I'm just kind of like, if you see me hurting myself, maybe ask me if, I need a Tylenol. But as far as the general aspect of it, just try to ignore it to the extent of not mocking it, not, picking too much fun at it.
You're listening to Atlanta's news magazine, InfoStar. InfoStar on Star 94.
So when Jamie Grace sees a problem, she's got to fix it. She'll talk about why she started teensWts, Teens with Tourette Syndrome, after the news break on Star 94.
You're listening to Atlanta's news magazine, InfoStar. InfoStar.
Now back to the show.
Star 94.
Star 94's Heather Allen wraps up her interview with Jamie Grace Harper, the Atlanta teen who's raising awareness about Tourette syndrome with her website, teensWts.net.
You haven't let your disorder hold you back in life, and you're now a teen spokeswoman for Tourette syndrome. What steps have you personally taken to make the public more aware about the disease?
Well, like you said, in 2006, I started my Tourette syndrome awareness and support website. And that was probably a huge step for me. Like I said, forever, I was so psyched. I was just suppressing my tics constantly because I was like, I can't let them know I have Tourette's. I can't let anybody know I have Tourette's. And then in 2006, I was just like, you know what? I'm through with this. I'm going to tell everybody I know. So I started my website and everything, and I've done some local speaking engagements as well as some not so local ones. I went to Washington, D.C. with the Tourette Syndrome Association last year. Last year, I was also the first person under 20 to speak at the Georgia Close-Up Conference at Emory University with the Center for Disease Control. And I spoke on Tourette syndrome awareness as well as, just motivating youth to keep life going no matter what happens. And so I've really I've done a lot of speaking for Tourette syndrome and awareness and stuff like that. And I've also just seen that one of the main ways that I can raise awareness for Tourette syndrome and raise acceptance for Tourette syndrome is to be like a living example of what a person with Tourette syndrome looks like that is determined to continue with life and not let Tourette syndrome be a stop sign. You mentioned Tim Howard, and one of my favorite quotes by him is Tourette syndrome is a speed bump, not a stop sign. And I really want people to just see that Tourette syndrome is a speed bump. I'm like halfway over it right now, but it's not a stop sign, and I'm going to keep going. And that's one of the main ways that I've seen Tourette syndrome awareness come into play is when I'm just a living example.
You seem like such an inspiring young woman, and you've improved the lives of so many teenagers across the United States. What motivated you to take an active role in promoting awareness about Tourette's?
I'd probably have to say my parents. That sounds so cheesy, but it's kind of true and stuff. My parents are in ministry, and for my entire life, I can't really say they've been me. I guess whatever you see in me, the whole inspiring stuff, my parents are that. So it's kind of natural, as well as I really just saw a need for Tourette syndrome awareness, as well as acceptance on the part of the person with Tourette syndrome and acceptance on the part of the people without Tourette syndrome. And I'm the kind of person, if I see a problem, my parents have taught me this, and I've seen my sister do it as well. If you see a problem, it's not one of those things that you just sit back and talk about. You got to get up and do something about it, or just close your mouth and stop complaining. So I saw that a lot of people with Tourette syndrome, there weren't a lot of things out there teaching people how to maintain Tourette syndrome and how to really keep a good attitude about it. And I just saw, well, I guess that means I got to teach them. And not to say that I know everything. I'm definitely still learning myself. But I really just saw a need for it. And I was just like, well, I guess it's just time, and that's when I started my site.
So are you hoping to raise money for Tourette research through your website, teensWts.net, or is your campaign more about connecting teens with Tourette from across the country to form a kind of support network for patients?
Yes, there definitely are the links on my website where you can find out how you can donate to the Tourette Syndrome Association for research and things like that. But also, like you said, I'm definitely about encouraging youth with Tourette syndrome or without Tourette syndrome. When I spoke at the Georgia Close-Up Conference, I spoke with the teens. I was saying, you may not have Tourette syndrome, but your father could be in prison, or your mother could have left you when you were a baby, or you could not even know where you're going with your life after high school. I mean, it could be so many dynamics where teens are kind of suffering. And so I'm really just, like I said, living example. I do have my blogs online about teens with TS, and I also just have some general blogs just encouraging youth. And I'm actually planning with my mom now empowerment workshop for young people that will really just be for young people with any type of like physical ailment or disease or condition or disorder, really just teaching them, you can't give up. You just got to keep going. Because I said this in one of my older videos, if you keep your head down, all you're going to do is bump into a wall and your head's going to be all swollen and stuff. And you're not going to have any type of solution. And you're just going to keep living a life that you're not satisfied with. And so I'm really just working hard to just encourage teens. Of course, I'm still encouraging teenagers with Tourette syndrome because it's a familiar grounds for me. But I'm trying to step out of the familiarity and realize that teenagers all over with different kinds of struggles, they really need help out there. And like I said, I don't know everything. I'm still learning myself, but we can all just kind of work together and network and see what works and see what doesn't work and see where we end up, which I think will be a pretty good place.
So what do you think can be gained by increasing national and local awareness of the disease?
Well, I definitely think it could raise a level of acceptance, but I do believe that the number one way for acceptance is to accept it yourself and not become a victim of it. That's one thing that my mom has said a lot, for me not to become a victim of my condition. If I'm having a bad day and I, choose that I don't want to do something that I was planning on doing, then I kind of have to make it my initiative to get up and do it anyway, or else I'm just going to become a victim of my condition. And I have been known to become a victim, to be kind of like, I have Tourette's, get over it, just kind of have that mentality of just laziness and just slipping into the anxiety thing. But, I really just think that with more Tourette syndrome awareness, we can have acceptance, but it all starts with the acceptance of the people with Tourette syndrome, understanding that we do have a condition that is hard to deal with for us and for others, and we just all have to work together to fix stuff.
When you first began posting videos about Tourette's on YouTube and your personal website, you edited your tics out of the videos, but you don't do this anymore. Why do you take your tics out of the original videos, and what made you decide to start showing the real Jamie Grace, tics and all, in your latest videos?
I was just really afraid of the reaction I would get from people. One of my main fears as far as reactions from people, I'm not really dating right now, but one of the reactions I was afraid of was from guys. A lot of times when I tell guys I have Tourette's, their automatic response is, "Oh, dude, you're like Tourette's guy. Curse for us, curse for us." I'm like, no, I'm not like that. That's not even a real, it's nothing like that. And so it's so hard because it can be so embarrassing, if you like a guy and he thinks you're just hilarious, not for the good reasons. And so it's pretty crazy. So I was afraid for that, and that definitely wasn't the only reason, just fear and just really nervous about it. And also when I'm doing something that I love, oftentimes you can't even see my tics. When I play my drums, you wouldn't even know I have Tourette syndrome. When I'm doing a speaking engagement or singing, you would not know for a split second that I have Tourette syndrome.
So it's all about the passion?
Yes, definitely. And also, just movement. That's kind of a therapy for me as well, playing my drums, because it's so much movement involved. A lot of people, when they play drums, there's not that much movement involved. But me, I'm just like, oh yes, let's play the whole thing. Just bam on it. So just a lot of movement definitely helps with my tics. But, passion and the love for what I do definitely takes my mind off Tourette syndrome, and it just kind of helps me to move with ease in whatever I'm doing.
Public awareness about autism, a social, communicative, and behavioral disorder that affects 1 out of every 150 children born in the U.S., has dramatically increased in recent months. What do you think it'll take for Tourette syndrome to capture the same public attention as autism?
One thing, I believe that our media has a huge impact on people, and I know that a lot of celebrities have children with autism. So I believe that is part of the reason why autism is a lot more, known in the industry or in the media, society in general. Also, Tourette syndrome isn't as common as autism, I don't think. And also, Tourette syndrome does have quite a few popular, little cameo appearances. I know there's a movie, I believe it's called, Deuce Bigelow or something. I haven't seen the movie, chose not to watch it because of the rating, but I have heard that it has some pretty rude and offensive Tourette's comments in it. And I've also been watching 3 or 4 movies in the past couple years, and I'll hear a Tourette's joke, and it just kind of hits me hard. So I think Tourette's definitely does have the media's attention, but I don't think it's in the right way.
Do you by chance know about how many people in the United States are suffering from Tourette's?
100,000.
100,000, and it's mostly people that start out in their childhood and it persists through adulthood?
Yes, definitely. A lot of times the tics will decrease and the symptoms will die down or something around like 17, 18. But, stress is definitely a huge part. Puberty, once a guy starts to get his facial hair, his tics start to come too. So, it's all that kind of stuff just kind of works together and when tics decrease and increase as well.
What do you recommend parents do if they think their child may have Tourette's?
Well, there's two very extremes, definitely, before a diagnosis even comes into play and after as well. One is to not ignore it. Don't treat it like it's just, just something they do. But also